All right, it's my oldest son's 3rd birthday tomorrow. We've got his birthday party today. And I was thinking about this. What have you accomplished since your last birthday? You know, some people use New Year's, it's a brand new year, I've got goals, and that's great. But I like to look at the years of my life. You know, I just turned 34 a few months ago, and I think about what are my goals in my 35th year? And I want to ask you the same thing. Reflect on, what you've accomplished since your last birthday. And if your birthday was just real recently, then, the year before that. Did you accomplish or make major strides and efforts to accomplish the things that you hoped you would in that year of life? Like, I think it's okay to be able to look back and say, man, did I make the most of this year that I've got on the earth? Because guys, I'm over a third of the way to 100. Like it's the years keep coming and they keep going so fast. And the older I get, the faster they go. Anyone else feel like that? And so it's important to look back and go, man, I want to make sure I'm assessing myself and I'm not wasting time, or I'm not kidding myself. One of the most valuable things we did in the military, and we did this in the police force as well after an operation, we did an AAR. They might be called something different where you're at, but that stood for an after action report. And that was done ideally immediately following the operation or the mission, whatever it was. As soon as feasibly possible, while the information is still fresh, we're going to debrief. We're going to look back. We're going to say, man, this went well, this didn't go well. Well, let's do an AAR of your last year of life. What have you accomplished? And if you're in a place where you're like, man, I've got some long-term goals, I've got some, things that I'm working towards, well, you should have some medium and some short-term goals as well. You don't just have to say, I'm trying to rise to the top of my company. Okay, well, that's great. But what else are you trying to do? Are you trying to exercise a few times a week? Are you trying to clean up your diet? Are you trying to be better with your money? Are you trying to spend more time with family? Like, how do you quantify that stuff? Or is it just some nebulous goal where you look back on the year and you go, yeah, I think I spent some more time? Guys, we can get some data on these things. We can look back and go, you know what? I saved X amount of money in the last year. And the year before that, I only saved half of that. So I've doubled, I've increased. I have done the thing I set out to do. Or, man, you know what? I used to spend an hour a day doing this, but I cut that out to spend it with family. I can now see that I've spent at least 365 more hours with my family in the last year. And 365 hours, if I do quick math, let's see. I mean, that's what, 16, 17 days? 16 or 17 days spent with your family that you hadn't before. If you just do an hour a day. Like, guys, we can look back and actually make sure that the things we did mattered, because the older I get, the less I want to mess around with stuff that doesn't mean anything. Is this speaking to anybody? Like, we need to make sure that we are making the most of this life that we've been given by God, because tomorrow's not promised. And so I've got to do what I can today. And I'm not talking about grinding and never sleep. No, I'm talking about being intentional, not wasting time. Let me counter that. 1 hour a day is what I say, 16, 17 days in a year. How many people spend 3 to 5 hours a day on a phone? Now we're talking about close to, what is that, 3 to 5 hours a day? So we're talking about 1,000 to over 1,500 hours a year on our phones scrolling. How many days is that, guys? We're looking at getting close to 100 days spent on a phone. Guys, let's be realistic. Let's look back and say, you know what, I did these things well, I didn't do these things well. And let's determine in our minds, okay, in this next year of life, I am going to do this. And I'm going to track it. I'm going to be honest with myself. I'll finish with this. There's a lot of people I know that when we start talking about weightlifting or dieting, You know, they say, oh, I can't lose, man, or I can't gain. I'm a hard gainer. And I say, no, you're not. You are undisciplined in your dieting, because as soon as you track your food, it's just a numbers game. If it takes you 2,000 calories a day to stay the same, then 2,200 a day would have you in an increase, a surplus, a bulk, and 1,800 a day would have you in a deficit, aka losing weight. It's just math. So all it takes is about a week or so to find your baseline. For me, it's around 3,000 calories a day to stay the same. So if you want to bulk, you got to eat more than that. If you want to lose weight, you got to eat less than that. It's just a numbers thing, but many people are not disciplined enough to track. So I'm going to ask you, as you set your goals for this next year, are you tracking them? Are you willing to track? Are you willing to keep an account? Are you willing to not just have this nebulous goal of, I'm going to try to work out more, but actually be able to look back and say, I worked out 3 times a week minimum for the whole year, sometimes 5. There was a week I took a vacation. I didn't get to work out, but I made up for it here. Guys, time is short. It's not promised. And as I think about my sweet 3-year-old son's birthday, and he's got the whole world ahead of him, it causes me to look back and say, man, I want to make sure I'm not wasting a second of my God-given life. The Bible tells us to live a life that's worthy of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that goes into every part of our life. So let's make sure we're being intentional, we're doing what we need to do, and God will be glorified in it all. Amen? All right.